I don't need to explain that. I'm not Ben Houchen. Graham's already done that. But I should say, though, that I'm a public servant. I'm not a politician, and therefore I may not touch on. I won't comment on government policy, local or national. I'll stick to. I'll stick to what I'm allowed to talk about. Nevertheless, I'm here to present sort of the case for green investment in Teesside and a bit of an update on what we're doing. I'm the head of Net Zero for the Tees Valley Combined Authority, but I'm also the chair of something called the North Eastern Yorkshire Net Zero Hub, which is a Department of Energy Security initiative that supports the development of net zero projects across the North East and Yorkshire regions, which gives me a little bit of latitude to go off script and thank Weardale Lithium. I am a true son of Weardale. The Rows have been in Weardale since border reaving ceased to be a lucrative profession. So it's nice to see that in the 21st century, Weardale is potentially going to do for the green industrial revolution what its lead mine, the lithium brines will do in the 21st century what the lead mines did in the 18th. So this, thank you very much for putting on the conference, and also thank you for showcasing some fantastic Tees Valley companies. Now, excellent, the clicker works. Very, very briefly, I'm sure many of you know where the Tees Valley is, and what the Tees Valley Combined Authority is. But just for the purposes of clarity, Tees Valley is the 5 local authority areas in the south of the North East region. So there are 12, 7 at the top, which gets called the North East, but in the wider northeast, we also have the Tees Valley. We did a devolution deal in 2016, and we elected our first mayor, Ben Houchen, in 2017. We are made up of Darlington, Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, Redcar and Cleveland, and Stockton-on-Tees. And our organisation, it sits between the local government level and the national government level, but it doesn't tell the councils what to do. It's a partnership of the 5 councils. It's governed by the mayor and the leaders of those councils, and it has one job, and that is grow the economy. Some mayors have powers over policing and crime. Some mayors have powers over very wide areas of sort of governmental activity. All we asked to be devolved was the ability to turn around our economy, and we have a very specific set of powers that allows us to do that. So what do? We've got about 1% of the UK's population. We're bang smack in the middle of if you look at the map of the entire of the UK, we're actually, while we're in the northeast of England, we're bang smack in the middle of the country as a whole. We're on the East Coast main line. We're home to the deepest port on the East Coast. I'll get onto ports again in a bit. But yeah, Tees Valley is 1% of the country. It has it has a very strong industrial history and heritage, and in fact, it is still home to one of our largest chemical clusters. And because of that, the green energy transition is absolutely essential to us. I talked about Weardale in the 18th century and the 21st centuries. Well, the story of Teesside was one of ironstone and chemicals in the 19th and 20th centuries, and now one of a myriad of green technologies in the 21st. So, fast forward from 2017 when we did our devolution deal, a deal that covered skills, employment, support for businesses, support for inward investment, support for the creative industries, and indeed support for net zero as a cross-cutting theme throughout many of those areas. Last year, we published our net zero strategy, and it has 5 distinct areas of activity. 1, heavy industrial. That is the chemical cluster in Teesside and some remnants of the steel industry, essentially are 66 big emitters and their supply chains. We've got light industrial and commercial, the other 18,000 businesses in Tees Valley. We've got transport, domestic heating and buildings, and natural capital. The first thing we did after publishing that was to publish our cluster plan for decarbonisation. That's something that my team has been working on for 2 years. It was funded by the government's Industrial Decarbonisation Challenge, which was delivered by Innovate UK. We were one of 6 clusters. There's arguably 7 in the UK, but we were six were given a cluster plan, and the idea was to work out if carbon capture, or the East Coast cluster, as you might call it, is the answer to what are you going to do with all your carbon. The cluster plan for Tees Valley is the answer to what are you going to do for each of these heavy emitting businesses in order to get them to net zero, whether that's taking advantage of carbon capture or other technologies such as green hydrogen or renewable energy. What we found was that, our ambition off the back of this is to create the world's first fully decarbonised industrial cluster by 2040. That's a big task, and some other industrial clusters have set themselves the same challenge. Well, if we pull this off, we will need £10 billion worth of private sector investment, and that's only to deliver the projects we've had announced so far. We believe should capture happen in the Tees Valley in the way it's supposed to, or the way we envision it, if government give maximum support and we get all of our current decarbonisation projects and some expected future ones to come off, that could mean 30,000 new jobs in the Tees Valley by 2040. And most importantly, I said we do economic growth. It would mean roughly £2 billion a year added to our regional GVA. So that the GVA of the Tees Valley at the moment is 13 billion a year. So to add two is would be transformational. It would be a long way. It would be a big step on our journey from being a part of the UK that is a net recipient of support from London to going back to the way we were when we were an industrial powerhouse as a net contributor to UK PLC. And I'm pleased to say that because of our devolution deal, we've got the power to do this ourselves. Economic growth isn't something that's being done to us. It's something that we in the Tees Valley have chosen to do ourselves. And the collaborations that have yielded this, carbon capture and hydrogen, starting in the Teesside Collective, an organisation of businesses, that coalesced to start industrial decarbonisation and bring about carbon capture many years before the Combined Authority was created, and local government collaborations as well that laid the foundations for devolution, again, many years before devolution deals were even mooted. Now, what is the Teesside cluster? Well, the area you see on the map is roughly 5 miles across. It currently emits about 4.5 million tons of CO2 a year, and in the coming years, should all of our net zero projects identified today come off, we think the emissions will be somewhere around 8.5 million tons. But those 8.8 million tons. But those emissions at that point will be abated either by carbon capture, and in some cases, residual emissions will be abated by negative emissions. You'll see the chemical industry is very heavily represented, but our future very much lies in chemical and process, advanced manufacturing, offshore wind, where we're seeing some great advances in life sciences. There's been hundreds of £1 million recently invested by Fujifilm, and in battery technologies. I said the map may be slightly out of date, so I wouldn't take it as read. And if anybody would like a more up-to-date one, I can happily provide it. You've seen green lithium are here. You've seen Tees Valley lithium are here. Altilium are active in that space in the Tees Valley. And we've got CPI, the Innovation Centre, and the Materials Processing Institute, for example, capable of supporting innovation in those spaces too. And just to give you another perspective on how that sort of fits together, the chemical cluster is across 3 sites: Wilton International, the largest integrated chemical complex we've got Seal Sands, North Tees, and Billingham, where it's slightly more focused on bio and pharma. And the Tees Works site, which is not chemical, but it's the nucleus of the Teesside Freeport, the former SSI Steelworks. It's the largest redevelopment opportunity in Western Europe, and it was the largest demolition project in the country. The closure of that steelworks was The closure of the steelworks was a seminal event in the history of Tees Valley, not just as an economy, but as a community. The day it closed, 2,000 direct jobs were lost, and many thousands more in the supply chain. It dominated the news in the UK, but especially in the Northeast. You saw entire families out of work because of reliance on one monolithic industry. Now, that was the end of steelmaking proper. After a century and a half of doing so on the banks of the Tees, this industry in particular, but chemicals too, built Teesside as a region. So for it to lose steelmaking, people travelled. If the mayor was here, he would tell you about how a great grandfather who walked from another part of the country to Teesside to work in the steel industry. People came to Teesside to. It was very much a Victorian boom town and a great immigrant community. People came to Teesside and turned Middlesbrough, a hamlet of 20 people in 1820, to what Gladstone called by the end of the 19th century the infant Hercules, and a city of almost 200,000 people today. So you know, the role of these industries in the region that is the Tees Valley can't be underestimated. So to lose that was to lose its confidence, and because of that, the South Tees Development Corporation was created to turn around the site. In parallel to that, we as the Tees Valley Combined Authority had started advocating for the creation of free trade zones, now called free ports in the UK. And I'm delighted to say that we have the first and largest free port that there is in the UK. It's I think one of eight in England, but in terms of scale, it's unsurpassed, and in terms of its focus, it delivers tax incentives and certain customs incentives that will help businesses develop clean projects. It's designed not to displace existing UK activity, but where there is additionality and there is a sectoral fit with the clean and green, with clean energy and green projects, it can provide the financial incentives to make the UK a competitive option. Now, I normally talk about three key technologies. I'm acutely aware of time, so I will rush a little. But the three key technologies we normally talk about when we talk about decarbonising Teesside are hydrogen, carbon capture, utilisation and storage, and renewable energy. Now, the three of them are almost indivisible, despite being unique, in the sense that we need carbon capture to underpin the generation of green energy and of decarbonised hydrogen from natural gas, or blue hydrogen, as it's sometimes called. We also need green energy to produce green hydrogen from electrolysis, as Richard mentioned. That's a key part of what he's going to do in the battery supply chain, and that kind of leads on to my next point. So those three technologies absolutely essential in their own right for the future prosperity of the Tees Valley region. But it made me think, and I wish filling in at the last minute, I didn't have time to amend a slide deck. But the three key green transport technologies we ought to think about, which you can build if you've got green hydrogen, you've got renewable power, you've got carbon capture and storage, and you've got the free port incentives that have already landed. The Sea Wind monopile factory, the first Freeport, the first Freeport investment in the UK's first Freeport is an 800-metre long, 40-metre tall monopile factory supporting the development of the Dog Bank offshore wind farm. If you've got these technologies and you've got the incentives, you can do some pretty interesting things. I'm not here to talk about sustainable aviation fuel, but if you've got carbon, you've got hydrogen, then actually decarbonising the aviation industry is within your grasp, and there's a huge global market for that. And Tees Valley has already started to stake its claim. It's had announcements from Willis Aviation, from Nova Pangaea, and from a number of others too. There is green hydrogen as a fuel in and of itself, and we've got the UK's first multimodal hydrogen transport hub, a series of DFT-funded trials running hydrogen vehicles around the Tees Valley. We've done phase one. We're about to start phase two. There was a hydrogen bus, a hydrogen boat, hydrogen cars, and in partnership with RAF Leeming, there were airside hydrogen vehicles pulling around planes where batteries wouldn't do, where diesel isn't environmentally friendly, and where batteries are aren't suitable for sort of both economic and practical reasons. But I suppose to the main point, you've also got battery materials. Now, I'm not going to pretend that Teesside has the absolute answer to all of the UK's battery needs. But it has the opportunity to be a really important. It has the opportunity to be a really, really important part of that supply chain, and it stands as a testament to the green vision our region has set out. We do intend to be the absolute best place to have a green or decarbonised industrial project in the UK. Our success in attracting battery materials supply chain companies stands as testament to the fact we've set out that vision, and we are working with some great companies to make that a reality. And the skills, as I think Richard mentioned, there are skills in Teesside, and I should be more complimentary to the wider Northeast, and I'm not trying to do anywhere down, but I am paid to put the Tees Valley case forward before any other. There are skills in Teesside in related industries in the chemical and process sector that will lend themselves to the battery supply chain. You know, we're already one of the best places to do recycling of some quite complicated things. We're already turning waste to energy and waste to fuels, and potential and in the near future, hopefully waste to sustainable aviation fuel through the Alphanar Lighthouse Green Fuels project. So I think the story of Teesside in the 21st century, if we can predict a story at all, it's a story of green technology, green investment, and green innovation. But it's also a story of supplying the green transport sector through technologies, including the battery supply chain. So I'll skip through actually. There were a few more slides I wanted to take you through, but I shan't bore you this afternoon. Thank you very much for listening.